then enter familiar course again, because that's super simple stuff. Okay, so welcome to the radio telephone operators course, or basically radio procedure course. What this course is designed to do is to train you on how to use various radios introduced by ICA and how to properly communicate on the radio. This course will allow you to become more effective team leader, squad leader, supplement platoon headquarters, or being an RTO. The skills taught here can be used in mission you participate in, or wherever you have to use communication mediums like this. So what I've done here, we've simply gonna assume that you know how to use the radios. So we're gonna skip this phase and move right into the basics of communications. Furthermore, we'll be going over something called information filtering. Someone needs to stop hot micing. Components of radio message, types of nets and frequencies, some pro words, and some reports and returns. Followed up by a practical. First off, using radios basically is now a huge part of modern warfare, and if you can't use your radios properly as a platoon or a large unit, then you're failing. You're gonna simply be killed by the enemy for them being able to better communicate than you and better exploit the situation than you, because you have to spend more time figuring out what the fuck's going on. You saw that in Iraq 2003, where American units were better at communicating and maneuvering than the Iraqis, thereby defeating them with very few units in a very short period of time. So this is why we want to teach you this, so you can communicate fast and effectively without and thereby save time and effort. So the basic communications comes down to the ABCs of communications, which are accuracy, brevity, and clarity. Fancy English words for you. And they are actually if not only applicable to the radio, but whenever you talk to each other and act as soldiers, you want to use accuracy, brevity, and clarity. And the basics of this is accuracy. We'll start off with the first one, A, accuracy. And accuracy is that you only report accurate information. So a lot of the time you'd see people reporting they're engaged by an enemy, or they have a shit ton of tanks or whatever coming in towards them, but they don't really know what they're facing, and they don't report accurately that they don't know that what they're facing. You also see instances of people saying, I'm in contact with an enemy platoon, turns out to be 2 enemy riflemen filling out that role. Anything like that. But in general, what you want to do is you want to give out accurate information. You want to make sure that what you're telling someone is actually what you know and not something you just figured out, because there is actually something called scenario fulfillment, and that's a mental state that your mind enters whenever you're stressed and whenever you're not really sure what's going on, and your mind will actually fill out information. That's how a fucking passenger jumbo got shot down outbound from Iran by an American ship once, simply because the radar operator had this scenario that this must be an F-14 from Iran coming in to bomb his ship, and he just reported that, and turned out it was a completely different scenario. It was first off not a plane diving, but it was a plane climbing, and it was going way too slow to be a jet. But nevertheless, that plane got shot down because he didn't report accurately what he saw. That's something you want to be aware of. You want to make sure you actually report the right thing. And this will help to keep your comm simple and accurate, because you won't ever have to explain again what you're seeing. So if you explain something, well, I'm facing a fire team minus, then you won't have to explain how many you're facing or what kind of enemy they are, because you just said a fire team minus. You saw something that was less than 4 times infantry, and that's as accurate as you're getting, and that shouldn't be cause for any further questions. Like if you see a squad plus, you know you're gonna at least 9 guys, and there are more. Then it's very simple. You don't have to explain anymore. Super simple stuff, but sometimes if you don't know this stuff, you'll fuck everyone over. Next thing is brevity. And one thing, people like to report accurate information. So like if you send a sit rep, you want to report I'm at grid 04922210035, just because you want to be super accurate. But there is no need for this level of accuracy, because you just need to tell somewhat where you are. And people saying using mills to point out a contact that's 100 meters away, it's 5718 mils away, and it's right. It's true. It's accurate information, but it's useless information. You don't need that level of accuracy. So one thing is, you want to be accurate, you want to be brief. So you have to somewhat filter out what's actually relevant, accurate information in some cases, because sometimes you can really overload people with information that they can't use for anything. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. And next thing is obviously clarity. Clarity basically means that you want to make sure that something. Okay. Clarity is, you want to make sure that whatever you're saying is a clear message. And one thing you want to do that by is simply by controlling your voice, instead of, yeah, we got contact north 1 squad minus. It's accurate information. It was a brief piece of information, but the way you did your voice just made it unclear what you were trying to say. So you want to try and be clear about whatever you're trying to explain to the other end of the line. Simply because he's not there, he can't see what you're saying. You have to explain it to him. You have to be clear about these things. And a lot of these things are simply things that comes with practice and from being around people that talk like this. If you're used to talking inaccurately, long sentences, and not much clarity, then you will have a hard time doing this course. But if you're simply used to saying accurate, brief information, then you should be good to go. Are there any questions to the ABCs of communications?
No.
Nice and easy. Okay. So next things are components of a radio message, and a lot of the time talking on a radio gets mystified a lot. Like, people want it to be a hard discipline. They want a lot of the time you simply see radio calls stopping because one guy on the end of the line isn't sure exactly how to formulate this accurately. So he simply stops talking instead, but it's just because he doesn't know what he's supposed to be saying. And you should never want to get in that situation. You always want to be able to figure out exactly or just something about what you're saying. And if you don't know, then you'd want to simply end the conversation. What's up, Jake? Okay, that way. Yes, so yeah, so first off, you want to be, well, I was saying something. Anyway, you want to avoid mystifying whatever you're doing, so we're going to try and simple this down. First off, you're going to be assigned a call sign, and a call sign is basically something that you are called on the net, because we don't want to have people running around saying, hey, hey Mongo, this is Godhand, how's it going? Can you get your squad moving over there? Yeah, this is Mongo, that's fine. Hey Jake, because then we have to remember what the fuck Godhand's doing, what's Mongo doing, what's Jake doing, and we don't want to have that happening. We want to assign radio call signs by jobs. So, for instance, what they do for example, the Canadian military, they actually assign letters to a call sign depending on what they're doing. So, for instance, an armored call sign will always start with Alpha for armor. An engineer call sign will always start with Echo for engineer, and infantry with India, and so forth. That's not always the way to go, but it's actually possible. But what you often get is, for instance, a company call sign could be Hitman. If you've seen Generation Kill, you know this, or Assassin, or whatever. Something that lets us know what kind of call sign this is, or War Pig for some sort of armor call sign, or whatever. But that's something that lets us know what kind of unit this is. And then we add numbers to it. So, for instance, you have Hitman, and then you have Hitman 1. It could tell us what platoon he is. So we don't care that his name is James, because we know Hitman 1, that's leader of Hitman's first platoon, Hitman Company's first platoon. Then we can give him give even more numbers. We can have Hitman 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, and 1-5. That could be what's called sub-call signs, and that's the individual squads in his platoon. So if any one of the squad leaders have to get up on the company net to talk, they can say this is Hitman 1-1 for Hitman 2. That lets you know that Hitman's first platoon's first squad is trying to talk to second platoon leader, for instance. But the reason we assign these is simply to let people know what we're doing, so we don't have to remember everyone's name or know it for that matter. Next thing comes initiating. Wait, are there any questions to call signs? Okay. So next thing comes is initiating traffic, which a lot of people have a hard time doing. You often hear people doing this in a weird way, and there's a very simple, very standardized way of doing this. And this is just like you pick up your phone. Andre, how do you pick up your phone?
I say hello.
Just say hello, nothing else.
No.
Hello, who is there?
What's up?
No one else?
Yeah,
Whatever this is.
this is whatever. Who's there?
Say your name.
Hey you, this is me. So hey mom, it's me. Or hey mom, this is Nils.
Oh right, picking up that way.
Yeah. So it's that easy. So whenever you're calling someone, you say hey dad, it's your son. How's you doing? Super simple stuff. And so that's how you want to initiate a call always. So it's simply a matter of saying 1, this is 2. That lets 1 know that 2 is calling him. Because sometimes you get people calling 2 calling 1, and then people don't really pay attention because, well, someone's talking to 2. No, wait, 2 was talking to someone, and that was me. Shit. So it's a simple way to keeping up with who is trying to reach who. So if you start out by saying 1, this is 2, then 1 hears his name on the net. Oh yeah, 2 is calling. What's up, 2? What do you got? Okay. Okay. Once you've gotten your call sign, you've initiated your traffic with another call sign, then follows your message. And here comes an important part of the ABCs, because before you even initiate your call, before you even pick up the radio and start talking to someone, you want to have that message figured out. So sometimes I even write down messages just to make sure that I don't waste the other call sign's time reporting in, because if he's a squad lead, for instance, he's busy with 8 people saying, hey, why are we not doing this? We're supposed to do this. So he doesn't really have a lot of time to talk with you. So you want to brief up your communications. That's one reason. Another reason is if you have a lot of call signs coordinating important stuff, you don't want to take away time where they should be coordinating just because you want to formulate something in a pretty way. Make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So it could be, so you want to make that simple. It could simply be 2, this is 1, 2, I'm in position, over, 2 Roger, over, 1 out. Then what I just did there was ending traffic. And when you end traffic, or when you have your message going, then you say, use the pro word over. And the pro word over basically means, I am done talking, I expect you to answer me. That's basically what over means. So whenever you hear someone say over, they actually want you to answer them. They're not expecting, they're not expecting that the call is over. So whenever you hear 2, this is 1, over, then 1 is actually saying, hey 2, I need to talk to you. And you have to answer that. It's very important that you answer that quickly. I hear a lot of squad leaders who have to be called like 5 times before they answer. And you have to realize that the radio is the most important tool of communication we have. So if people don't answer the radio, then we're pretty much fucked. So basically, whenever someone's talking on the radio to you, then you usually want to drop whatever you have and write that down instead, or make sure you understand it. But then once you're going through your message, then you come to the end of your traffic. You're done sending your message. He's understood it. Then you want to end it, and you do that by saying out. That means I'm done talking. I don't expect you to answer me. So that's very, very simple. It's simply if you think the conversation's over, then you say out. What you want to note about this is once you've said out, you can't just keep talking. Then you have to say. Then you're gonna have to assume that the other guy put his phone down. He's not listening to you anymore, and then you have to say, if for instance, two just said out in the middle of a message, then you simply have to go again. Two, this is one. It continues over. Let him know that you're still trying to talk to him. And if he says out again for whatever reason, then you just have to call him up again like that. You don't. So end means the conversation's over. You have to restart it by initiating traffic. It seems weird, but it's actually the best way to go because you avoid confusing people about who's actually talking right now. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. One very important little thing that annoys the crap out of me sometimes is when people say over and out. Because you either say over or you say out. So if you're ending traffic, out. Don't over and out, just out. Because over and out basically just a cause of misunderstandings. If I hear someone say, for instance, if you're letting go of your button as you say over and out, then I might just hear over. Well, yeah, I understood that. And then you just say over and out again. Wait, what? What's he actually trying to say? Just keep it. Over means I'm expecting you to answer. Out means I'm done talking. I don't need you answering me. A question of etiquette as well, because there are actually radio etiquettes. If you're talking to a higher call sign, for example, platoon leader or your squad leader or whatever, you can't, and they're sending you a message, you can't out them, but they can out you. It's not always applicable, but it's actually a nice way to go. So for instance, if 1, this is 6, 1, this is 6, a message la 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 la, over, Roger, over, 6 out. So even though one had the option of ending the message because he's understood the message and they confirmed it, then he still says over just to make sure that 6 doesn't have any more information to give him, that he's actually done talking.
Chain of command.
Yeah, and that applies on the radio. Sometimes you might not have time for that, so you might have to say, for instance, if you're a squad leader, you get in contact with the enemy and you don't have time to talk to him on the net because you're fighting. Then you can say, for instance, contact, wait, out. So lets him know you're fighting, you'll get back to him, out. But that's basically one of the only times you wanna out your leader, because he will most likely have something important to tell you. But combat can supersede that. Any questions on the components of radio message?
What about Roger and copy?
We're gonna get to the pro words, but interrogative is a completely useless word. It's something people say to sound cool, because interrogative has no meaning as a word. Because you're already calling him with a question, you say, or a message or whatever. So the only thing you do by saying interrogative is you want him to answer something. Well, you're fucking already calling him. Just say. The difference is you saying 1, this is 2, over, nice and easy. And then you say 1, this is 2, interrogative, over. It has no real purpose because he's still gonna answer you, whatever you, even if you say interrogative or not. Make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, technically you could see that as a message type, so that the addressee knows what kind of message to expect to receive. So it's similar to when you say, 1, this is 2, Lockstead, over. Then the receiving call sign knows, okay, I'm now expecting a Lockstead, so he prepares to copy down a grid, most likely. So, you could see it in one or the other way, but interrogative is not a pro word.
Okay, moving on. If there are no more questions on the composition of radio call.
Yeah, I got one. Does break actually used in Arma too?
Sometimes. We can take that right now, but we're gonna go over it later. Break means the word break as a single word means I am having a break in my conversation to clear up the air so someone else can talk if they have a contact or something. But then as soon as you've had a break of 2 seconds, you're gonna come back on the net. For instance, it could be I'm at grid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, break. I am oriented to the north, break. I'm in contact with squad size element, over. That's a way of doing that, because if something new were to happen while you're giving this report, this situation report, then they could cut in on you while you're doing your break. So they could come in contact without, for instance, while you're doing your report. And it's a feature to avoid to avoid signals intelligence in real life, because sometimes you might have crazy guys like Jake listening to your radio and using that to figure out what grid you're actually in, and you can avoid that simply by making shorter radio messages. It will take them longer to figure out exactly where you are and call in artillery on you. Not applicable though.
What about if something's important happens, like on the other side?
Well,
Like-
if something
Like they are gonna get engaged by a tank, and so and they like call in the immediate case or
Well,
something like that.
as I was explaining, when you have these breaks, the reason you have break in a report is so people can come in and say 6, this is 1 contact, over, and then the 6 can know, oh shit, 1's in contact. That's more important than whatever 2 had to tell me. And then some people somewhere use break to tell someone to make it sure that people know that they're interrupting a call right now. But you don't have to do it. It's a way of, and if you have your other people's competency, then it's a way of showing, hey, I have something really important. You need to listen up. Break. But it's only, I know Canadian Army uses it. I know Danish Army sure doesn't. Depends pretty much on where you're from.
British Army uses it as well.
Okay. So that's pretty much it for our message, and we're gonna get into the pro words again pretty soon. Any immediate questions? Okay. Moving on to phase 3, types of nets and frequencies. So first off, can I ask anyone what is a net?
It's a net of squads.
It's a channel.
Yeah.
Radio network.
It's basically a bunch of radios on the same frequency or the same channel. So for instance, if we all took our 343s, we'd look up, we're all on channel 1. So we are on a radio net of 343s. That's the basic point of a radio net. It's simply a way of, or simply a name for a bunch of radios on the same frequency. Then the next thing is, what is a frequency?
The frequency of your current channel.
Yeah. So basically, whenever you set up your radio, you set it up so it's transmitting on a certain frequency in megahertz. And that's a bunch of physics crap. But basically, what it does is that if you are not on the same frequency as someone else, they won't be able to hear you. If you are on a frequency that's very close to, they might be able to hear you, but not likely. So the basic idea is you need to have the same frequency in order to talk to someone. If you change the frequency, or i.e. the channel, then he won't be able to hear you because you will be on a different net. Any questions to that? Okay.
No.
So next thing is, since we have nets, we have different types of nets. And first off, as I mentioned before, we have this 343 net we're all on right now. That is what's called a squad level net. That's a bunch of radios on the same net, but we're only in a squad. So what that means is we are the lowest mean of radio communications. It's not as strict radio discipline. Someone's hot micing. It's not the same strict radio discipline as on higher nets that we're gonna get into later, but you still want to make sure that you still, since you're in armor, you want to tell people who you are and what's going on, and you just don't have to use over and or out all the time. But still works. Then we get on to a higher net, for instance, platoon level, and that's a medium level mean where radio discipline is in effect, and that means that we are using pro words all the time for whatever we can. So we're gonna say over, we're gonna say out, we're gonna use breaks, we're gonna do whatever to make sure that our mission our communication makes sense and runs smoothly without us interrupting each other all the time. There's nothing more annoying than than trying to talk to someone on a net, and right in the middle of your conversation, when you just said over, someone comes in and say, "Hey, 2-2 is 2-3." I'm trying to tell platoon lead something. Fuck face. So another reason we have these over and break is actually to explain to people that we're gonna keep on with this conversation, and only if you have an out are you allowed to initiate traffic with someone, unless it's extremely important. The way you know something is important is there's this priority. New contacts we didn't know about are more important than than anything else. Then comes fire missions, then comes casualties, and then comes everything else. So the only real reason you could interrupt someone is because you have something like a new contact, or a new fire mission need done, or new casualties, and that's basically the only reason you should interrupt anyone ever. Otherwise, you just have to wait your turn. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Then comes even higher nets, and that's nets like company nets, or what we often have here in the game is task force nets. These are the highest nets and the highest authority, where platoon commanders communicate to each other. So depending on the situation, that net can be very quiet or very busy. But this is why it's very important that you know exactly what you're trying to tell the other call sign, because you want to give him an accurate, useful report without wasting his time. So you will often be either platoon leaders talking to each other, or their radio operators talking to each other. And as a radio operator, you want to make sure you understand perfectly well what your platoon leader just told you to tell the other platoon, and you know exactly what your own platoon situation is, and that you know how to explain that in an accurate, brief, and clear manner to the other platoon. So this requires that you know some of this stuff by heart. Otherwise, you shouldn't want to take a slot like that. The last type of net we have are fire support nets, where we have people like forward observers, JTAGs, fire directors, pilots, shit like that, are on this net. This being on this net requires you to know a lot of this stuff by heart as well, because they have to talk a lot and they have to talk fast, and a lot of numbers are blaring through the air on such a net. So if you get in there, you want to make sure you know exactly who you're trying to reach and exactly what you're trying to tell him. So when you get in there, you basically have all your message written down, so you can just go, Blade, this is 2-2, this is 2-6 Romeo, Blade, I'm requesting fire mission on grid over, and grid la 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 la, elevation la la la, the side effect, this, and then get a confirmation from him. So you can talk fast, also you can talk, not fast, but you can give accurate information in a brief amount of time. You don't have to talk for a long time to give that information. Okay. Okay, that's it for types of nets and frequencies. So, are there any questions on that?
Yes, I know my this might belong to sitrep and lockrep, but when I'm the RTO for the platoon leader, for example, and I ask squad 1 or whoever about his location, should I mark it on the map in group channel so the commander just can open his map and see where special squads are right now?
That depends on your commander.
Okay.
It is generally a good idea, though, yeah, if you want to help the commander out. But if you decide to do that, once again, it comes down to information filtering. You don't want to overload the map with all sorts of markers. You need to keep track of those markers and delete them when appropriate.
Yeah.
So what I often do is I just write it down. So whenever, okay, so one is in contact at grid, with this kind of element that is in this grid. Okay, then you have written that down. So when the platoon leader asks what were they in contact with, they were there with a squad size element, and they were doing this. Okay. So it's if you're an RTO, you're basically a bitch, and there's nothing bad about that. But you're basically the guy that makes sure the platoon leader knows exactly what's going on the higher nets at all times, or even at the platoon net, because sometimes we get platoon radio operators within platoon that doesn't need one, but that's it. In any case, your job is to make sure the platoon leader knows what's going on, and while you're doing that, you want to make sure that his ass is covered.
I'm just going to have to reconnect. I am somehow shut out of the game. I'm not sure why.
Okay. Now comes the fabled pro words that you have all been waiting so longingly about. Okay, so I'm simply going to read this list of pro words to you. You can read them in my both my and Cedric's lesson plans that I linked to you, but and reread them there. But these are the basic pro words that you want to know. The first
I got
pro
the
word.
ACP 125 Foxtrot open.
Hmm?
Said I got the ACP 125 Foxtrot open, which has a complete list of them. I don't know if you want to go like that detailed.
Now I'm just going to be using those that we've written down already.
All right.
I actually cut a few out just to make sure we didn't waste time. So yeah. First off, we have the pro word "say again," and one thing that happens a lot in game that can actually be quite disruptive is if you say "repeat" when you mean "say again," because "say again" means say what you just said your last transmission again, because I did not understand what you're trying to say, or didn't hear it, or whatever. And you don't need to give a reason, you just say again. If you say repeat, that can be a very bad thing if you get on a firenet, or if you're talking to an FO, because repeat on a firenet means do the exact thing you just did again. So if you just fired a big ass suppression fire mission on a hill, and then you're saying repeat on that net, they'll just start shooting again.
Question: what about repeat last?
No. That means the same. Repeat last. Okay, repeat last fire mission.
Okay.
So
clear.
that's why we say again.
What about repeat last message?
No, don't do it. Just say again. It's very simple. It's very easy, and no one gets confused. I know a lot of people tries to explain and tries to use all these things like repeat last message, but what you're doing is you're basically just making whatever point you're trying to get across longer and easier to misunderstand. So just say again, because that can mean nothing else. You can't really expect that to mean fire again or whatever. It's simply say again.
Roger.
Okay, next pro word is Russia. What does that mean?
That you understood the message.
Understood.
No.
You understand? You understand? If you don't understand, then you ask, have them say again, or can you please elaborate or explain what the fuck you're trying to tell me? Because Roger means I understand what you just said. Then we have another word, Wilco. What does that mean?
Will do.
Yes, will comply. I intend to do what you just told me to do. So your orders are to move north. Wilco. I will actually move north.
So can you actually say, just to confirm, can you actually say Roger Wilco?
That's a waste of time.
No need.
Yeah, I know.
You could just say Wilco.
Wilco implies that Roger.
Yeah, can you say either?
No.
What's the difference between welcome and copy?
Roger means you understand, it doesn't mean you're going to do it.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
that's the basic difference. Roger,
That's
I
lawyer
understand.
talk.
Wilco, I will do it. So another word that's thrown around a lot is copy, and I don't know if you have the list there, Jake, what copy actually means. But to my understanding, copy is basically just another weird garbage word.
Copy is actually not really a pro word per se. It mostly relates to actual formatted messages or messages that you actually have to write down, and copy means that in that respect that you have it written down and it's complete. It's more like a means of acknowledging the correct reception of a message.
Okay, yeah. So
it's a bit hard to understand to describe, but yeah, that's.
And so basically, it's what happens in a company command center when a platoon leader calls in that his sitrep is as follows, and then he sends that the company commander's RTO write that down. Okay, I copy your message. That means I've written that down.
Question.
Yes.
What about acknowledged?
We're gonna get to that, but acknowledged is basically a Roger, as far as I understand.
And
No,
affirmative?
well, technically not. Acknowledge is actually an order given on the net. So if you give somebody an order over the radio and you say blah blah blah, move from A to B, acknowledge, that means that it forces the addressee to, acknowledge, to call you back and say, yes, I have understood. So it says an instruction to the addressee that the message must be acknowledged.
So that's basically like a confirm over.
Sounds a bit like prerogative or what you mentioned at the beginning.
No, it doesn't. Interrogative is used or is informally used when people says, hey, I'm gonna ask you something. But acknowledge means confirm that you understood what I just said.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
What about affirmative?
Let's
don't make this more complicated than it is. There's a reason I picked these words, because it's what you need to know. If you only use these words, you can say everything you need to say on PlatoonNet without ever fucking anything up. But if you put all kinds of other crazy words in, the only thing that can happen is that you're gonna confuse someone who hasn't gotten your complete list of weird ass words. So go on Wikipedia and read that shit if you're really curious about it.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Wilco and shit like that. Now we have words like how copy, solid copy, and good copy that are basically fuck ups. But in any case, how copy is also a request for confirmation, like acknowledge is. So it's so I'm sending you a message like I'm at grid 1 2 3 4 5 6. I'm dispersed like this. How copy? Then what you're asking is, did you get my message? And it's actually not something you should have to do, because the other guy should in any case confirm with the Roger. So how copy should be useless, but in any case I have to ask people a lot because they simply don't respond to me. Okay. Then you can answer with the copy, solid copy, good copy, means the same thing. It's just a way of saying I understood your message and I have it written down.
Okay, so if you say how copy, then somebody can just say, yes, I understood what you said, but obviously you don't really know if they understood what you said. So if you want them to read it back, what would you say? Read back or something?
Yeah, you can do that, or I don't know if that's used in the US, but in Danish we use the word confirm. Confirm over means I want you to confirm what you just heard, so read that back to me. Otherwise, that's where you use acknowledge. Okay.
Yeah, read back is the proper word of telling somebody to, to read it back to you.
Cool. Okay, next thing, there's a quick little pro word that a lot of people use lately, ac. And ac just means I acknowledge what you just said. There's a faster way of saying acknowledge instead of tripping over your own tongue trying to say that fucked up word.
Yeah, but you can get confused by that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a clear message.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I'm basically saying this because you'll hear it. You'll hear people say this because they think it's cool. So you want to be ready for people saying ac.
AC is actually a proper abbreviation for acknowledge. It is in the radio manual.
Okay.
Will you explain what solid means?
Nothing. It means I solidly copy what you just said. I have written it down so well that it's a solid column of graphite that I put down here.
It also confirms that the radio reception is good.
But with ac, sometimes it's really hard to actually get such a small word, such a quick word actually, ac. I've noticed that when I was squad leading a few times, and command thought that it was great to say, to basically just say ac 2-1. I didn't sometimes I didn't get that X, so I had to basically ask what they meant. Ask them to.
Okay, guys, we need to be careful about this becoming a fucking coffee club because we have limited time, and I don't want to waste your fucking evenings with this. Okay, so moving on. Send is not a pro word, which basically is a fucking confirmation that you're ready to receive a message. So someone says message, for instance, that could mean I want you to tell you something that you have to write down. Then you say send message, because then you're ready to actually write the message down. Then comes the word break, and this is used to divide up points and allow to break in your transmission in order for someone being able to interrupt you if necessary. And if you're good at this, it will actually be a natural thing. It's simply finding out, okay, a small amount of words, or maybe only 3 words or 5 words that you're gonna say, and then break, and then next piece of information, break, next piece of information, break. And if you get good at this, you can actually send a long message very easily and still make it understandable, but without blocking the net while you're saying it. So, for instance, if I were to give a sitrep right now, I could just say I'm at grid 094100, break. I'm assembling the hangar, break. I observe no hostiles, break. I'm continuing lecture, over. So I still got some breaks for people to interrupt me if they had something more important, but I didn't. And I could still continue with the. And then I could just say over at the end, meaning I expect you to answer my message.
Can I comment on that, Godhand?
Yeah.
One thing that you should always keep in mind: always make sure you release your push to talk between break. A lot of people will say break, but not actually release the channel. And also, if you're going to break a message, allow a breath of 1 to 2 seconds between to allow other traffic to come in. Otherwise, it's completely pointless.
Yeah, you hear a lot of people say and just holding down the button while they're talking and talking and talking and talking and breaking and breaking and breaking, but no real breaks.
Or they'll say
that's just annoying.
Yeah, they'll often go, "I've got a message for you, break. Here, I'm continuing my message, break. I'm not going to stop talking, break," and it's pointless.
Yeah.
Question. So
Yes.
if there's squad 1 talking to the platoon leader or whoever else and says break, and then squad 2 comes in and sends an important message, how does squad 1 go on in his message? Because basically he had to say platoon leader, this is 1 again.
Yes,
because
he will.
Okay.
So basically, if 2 interrupts him, 2 should be competent enough to know that his message is more important than what this guy is talking about. So he will be able to interrupt and say, 6, this is 2, message, or 6, this is 2, contact report, over. And then let 6 know this is new contact, and let 1 know this new contact, I'm not gonna be talking right now. Yes, what's the question?
Oh, sorry. So when we're reading grid coordinates, do we just read the big numbers only? Like, for say, right now we are at grid 49100. We wouldn't bother with the smaller ones on the dagger.
You read out what's relevant. That comes down to information filtering. You wanna, as I said, you wanna give accurate information, but only as accurate as you have to. So in this case, we're a fucking 40 people here. Do we really need to say what exact square meter I'm on? Nope. Do we need square 10 meter? Nope, because we're more people than that. We need square 100 meter. So that's simply you don't have to go more accurate than that, basically. If you're a fire team, yeah, maybe say as 8-figure grid, or if you're calling in a precision strike or something. But if you're just saying my squad is here, then you don't need to go on a small grid because it's going to be useless anyway. But we're going to go over that in the log stats, basically how to report accurately where you are without wasting time. Okay. We talked about breaks, and we're going to talk about contact. Whenever you report contact, that means you're engaged by the enemy. The enemy is actually shooting at you. And then, most likely if you're a squad leader and you get in contact, you just want to get on the net, contact, wait out, while you're lying down, contact, wait out, and then figuring out what the fuck's going on, getting a report from your fire team leaders, and then you're gonna go back into 6. This is 1 contact report over. Then send it. Sometimes BTR platoon and all that other shit in your Salta. But one thing is saying contact, wait out. I'm in contact, I'm gonna get back to you with a report. Or saying contact report, which means I'm gonna send you a report on what the enemy is actually doing. Okay?
Yeah, but wait out. You have to say your, hey you, this is me, or it's not necessary.
Yes, you want to do that, because otherwise it's a pretty useless call if someone just randomly yells in that contact, wait out. Okay, someone's shooting.
Yeah, so but 1611 contact, wait out.
Yeah, exactly.
What if we are under heavy fire and we request support or something like that?
We're gonna get to that, but you're still gonna use correct procedures. You're not gonna drop everything and saying, fuck, I am in contact, I need support. Drop anything. You still use over and out, because everyone else is also in heavy contact, and everyone else also needs to talk to each other.
Alright, should we report any contacts over net? I mean, platoon net?
Yes, if they're enemy, yeah.
Alright.
Because otherwise, if you don't report, hey, I'm engaging 4 infantrymen here, then someone's just gonna hear some gunfire and nothing, and people are gonna be confused. But if you say contact 4 times infantry at grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're stationary, I'm engaging. Time now. That lets everyone know, okay, first squad is killing someone. Okay, moving on. Pro word wait means wait, but that's a thing you want to use with caution. There's this pro word wait out, which means I can't answer you right now, I'll get back to you. Out. But then there's also wait, and wait is a word you want to use carefully, because you can't say wait on a radio. Like you can say grid as follows, wait. Then when you say wait, you have 3 seconds to either out yourself or send the grid. Then you can say wait again. You have 3 seconds to out yourself or send the grid, and then wait a 3rd time. And if you still haven't gotten ready to send that grid or whatever, then you have to out yourself, because you're basically you've been blocking the net for 9 seconds, waiting for you to get ready. So wait can be used without saying out at the end, but it's very rarely used, and it's very annoying if people do it.
So only use it if you have to just really quickly check something like your GPS or map to double check your coordinates. Don't try and formulate long messages with it.
As I said, it's just if fuck, I forgot the grid was. Wait. Oh yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over.
What if someone dies in the middle of the sentence?
Well, too bad. Second command will probably realize, oh shit, platoon leader just died, I'm gonna take over as platoon leader. What was your message? In that case, life just sucks. What if the squad gets blown up as it sends its contact report? Well, life sucks for them.
Well, you should pay attention more to the bell instead of comms, I guess.
Okay, next we have over and out. We got that. Repeat. Just gonna talk about that as a pro word. Only used concerning fire, and it means repeat last fire mission or repeat last cast. Nothing else. Can't be used anywhere else. If I hear you guys do it, I'm gonna shoot you in the face. Okay. And finally, a pro word called lock. Set like lock, as on a door, means location. So my lock is as follows: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever. Some final words we have check fire, means I'm ceasing fire, or cease fire, check fire, stop shooting. For instance, if you're getting involved in a friendly fire, then instead of just lying there and taking it or firing back, then you just call all call signs. This is 1, check fire, out. That lets them know, oh wait, one's getting shot at by someone friendly. Stop shooting whoever does it. Then we'll figure out who exactly shot at who.
And if you say it in for the squad itself, just to watch out for their targets so that they target ID, how do you say that? Do you say it in the long one, identify your targets or watch out what you're shooting at?
Check fire. Basically means check what you're firing at or stop firing.
Okay.
If somebody starts screaming check fire, it's best just to stop and confirm what's going on.
Exactly. You might be in contact with an enemy, but if someone says check fire, just stop for a second, check, are those actually enemy combatants out there, or are they friendlies assaulting those enemy combatants? Oh shit, that's actually a squad coming in from the left. We're gonna check fire. So that's what the call is for. There might be someone in contact, so you won't hold up the combat forever until you figure out who shot who. But it's just check fire because you think someone's shooting at someone they shouldn't shoot at. Okay. Next two words are Oscar Mike and Charlie Mike. You've heard those a lot, I guess. Oscar Mike means on the move. Charlie Mike means I'm continuing movement. So it's just a funny way of saying I'm moving. That's pretty much it. We talked about lower means and higher means being lower means being sub call sign net and higher means being a parent call sign net. Okay, now we're gonna get into a part of the lecture where you wanna either write down on next to you or a notepad or whatever, or get this link open with my lesson plan in it, because this is the reports we're gonna be using here. First report that people constantly have problems with, and I don't understand it, is radio checks. A radio check is a very simple procedure where you simply check if people's radios are working, and you simply do that, for instance, by doing a normal one call sign radio check, where simply this is one radio check, over. This is one, loud and clear, this is two, loud and clear, over. This is one, loud and clear, out. That's a simple call to radio to check if the radios are working, and you answer loud and clear, and or distorted, or something that describes what the radio sounds like. Signal's all fucked up if you don't know any other fancy word for it. But that's basically what that is. It's simply calling someone else to see if you can contact them on the radio. Then there's something called an all nets radio check, or all call signs radio check, and that's, for instance, if you're in a platoon, then it's all call signs. This is 6 radio check. That's him initiating traffic that he wants a radio check, and then he says over, letting people know that he wants a response. Then comes the thing people can't figure out. We go what's called numerically, so that means first number goes first, basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If there are more sub call signs, then could be 1 alpha, 1 bravo, 2 alpha, 2 bravo, 3 alpha, 3 bravo, 4 alpha, 4 bravo, and so on. But the basic idea is you want to make this as simple as fucking possible. And the way you do that is simply by going in order. Then what fucks even more up is if someone for some reason doesn't answer, then what you're actually supposed to do is, if he doesn't answer within 3 seconds, for instance 1 isn't answering at all, then 2 needs to count 1, 2, 3, this is 2, loud and clear, over. This is 3, loud and clear, over. This is 4, loud and clear, over. 5 doesn't answer for some reason. Okay, this is 6, Romeo, loud and clear, over. So you want to keep this message rolling, so we can just really quickly identify, okay, most people know it, just 1 and 5 who can't listen to radio for whatever reason. What really fucks people up here is if someone way down the chain figures, well, I should go now. Because you don't hear 1 answering and 2 is basically waiting his turn, but then 4 decides, nah, the other 3 don't know what they're doing. This is 4, loud and clear, over. If that makes sense.
One other remark here, if I may.
Yep.
If for whatever reason one call sign, you need to skip one call sign. For example, 1, 2 have answered, 3 is not answering, so 4 says this is 4, loud and clear. Then 3, even if he realizes, oh wait a second, we're doing a radio check here, he has to wait until the very end of the line.
Yeah.
Okay, so just don't jump in the middle of it all of a sudden, all right? You either answer within the allotted time frame, or you wait until the end.
That's a good one. Okay. Then once that's done, the guy who ends the radio check is so everyone else is reporting in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then comes his end of the line. He's heard everyone, including the guys who are late because they were gonna answer now, and then he comes in. This is 6, loud and clear, out. That lets him know. That lets everyone else know that he actually heard them. And then if he doesn't hear someone, then he can say, "This is 6, everyone but 2, loud and clear, out. 2, this is 6, radio check." And then he could try and get a 2 on net again. Any questions on the radio check? Basically, what it is initiate traffic, send message, which is radio check, confirm message with loud and clear or anything, and then end traffic.
What about squad radio checks?
Same. Fire team 1 to fire team 2.
No, I'm talking about for 3's radio checks.
3 for 3 radio checks.
I would personally go utilize the check tag card for ease. Just go down the list.
Yeah, just have your guys sound off their name in order of the check tag card if you need to do that.
Some people say if you just say radio check, that's okay. And they say that the shack tack order is kind of lame, they told me.
Don't listen. What I do when I squad lead, I only care about my fire team leaders, so I only ask the fire team leaders for radio checks, and I don't care about anyone else, because they have to talk to their team leader anyway.
Also, for the radio check, so if 2 doesn't answer, 3 could answer, but 4 shouldn't answer, because...
Yes, she should. You just keep going. If for some reason one guy didn't answer, then you just keep going. And then once you're done with your radio check, then the last guy can come in.
What if it's 2 people that didn't answer, or, yeah.
Yeah, same deal. It's just get to the end of the line. If the first guy who fucked up still doesn't answer, then you wait 3 seconds. Okay, then it's your turn. You just keep that numerical, so you just keep going. Okay, we're done with this, and then we keep going again in numerical order. It's actually extremely simple, but for some reason people want to make it harder than this.
Godhand, what would you say is the appropriate amount of time to wait for other call signs that are ahead of you?
3 to 5 seconds.
Yeah. But we're going to give you a chance later on the practicals. The first thing we're going to do before we move out is basically do an all call signs radio check. Okay. Next thing you want to write down is a sit rep or situation report. So, and that's basically what a platoon leader should have to say to a squad leader if he wants a situation report. It's just, read this is 6, sit rep, over. Then 3 should start putting together a sit rep. Then what you do is you initiate traffic, you will advise that you want a sit rep, and then what the guy answering want to give is grid of his call sign and what's called location displacement. And location and placement is basically, if we look at the map of us now, then you have our grid is 049er 100. We're located inside the building, and we're displaced in the southwest side of the building. That means we're what our location within the grid is. For instance, if you zoom out and find a road or something, then you might have a crossroad in the middle of that. Then you can say you're located at the crossroad and you're displaced in 360 security around it within 50 meters or within 25 meters or whatever. Basically, just explaining how much room your squad your element takes up when you're looking on the map, like a footprint. How much does this footprint take up? Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. What about grid graph?
Say again?
Grid graph, grid reference.
I don't understand what you say.
Grid reference, right?
Grid reference. It's, as I said, we're just saying I am at grid. La la la. I am located in the hangar. I'm displaced in the west side. Okay, next comes the situation at the grid, and you have so you're given your grid, location and displacement, and then what's actually going on here. In this case, there's election going on. If you go somewhere else, you might find a bunch of civilians coming down the road. Mass grave on the on my east side. I'm engaged with infantry that I reported earlier to the north still. Whatever. That's just what's actually going on right now. Then, once you've reported what's going on, then you report what you're actually doing. Because one thing is, I'm being engaged from the north. Okay, what are you doing about that? Are you attacking? Are you escaping? Are you holding in a base of fire, waiting for something? Whatever. So, very basic. And then, if you for some reason need support, you send that afterwards. So, just my immediate situation report would be here. I'm at grid 049er 100, located in the hangar on the west, displaced in the west end. Break. I'm doing a lecture. Break. I am continuing lecture. Break. I require no support. Over. That would be my sitrep right now if I had to do one of those. Make sense?
Yeah, is the right description of sitrep like what I'm doing right now, what I'm going to do, and well,
where am I? What's going on? What am I doing?
Yeah,
Do I need help?
basically 3 things, right?
Yeah, 4 things. Where am I? What's going on? What am I doing? Do I need help?
Roger that.
That helps you. Okay, if there are no more questions to sitrep, we're going to log stats. And log stats should probably have been before sitrep because they're easy as fuck. Initiate traffic, grid and displacement, end of traffic. So that's just as simple as this. 1, this is 6, log stat over. 6, this is 1. I am a grid 049er 100, displaced in the hangar to the west. And that's it. Over. You don't have to report anything else, it's just where are you right now. So that's a log stat, and that's why I won't hear them often, because it's very rare that you would have to ask someone where the fuck they are. Okay. No, Ophelius, you only report if there is something that has changed. So, for instance, if you lost 2 men, then you send a casualty report, I lost 2 men. Or you do that in your ace report, basically. You don't report you report that when it's needed. Okay. Now comes the exciting stuff, contact reports. And there are a million ways of doing these. I on my own decided that the easiest one in the world is the SALTA. And SALTA is an acronym for enemy size, enemy activity, enemy location, time of contact, friendly activity, and end of message. So size, activity, location, time, activity. It's an extremely easy way to format a contact report. So it's basically contact. So it's basically 6. This is 1 contact report over. This is 6 send over, and then you can just report 1 times enemy fire team assaulting towards me. Time now. I am engaging. Over. Roger. Roger. Proceed on task. Out. That's as simple as SALTA is. It's just giving the bare minimum to the platoon leader what he needs. What is the enemy? How many are they? What are they doing? Where are they? When did they do this? Is that now or did it happen before? And what are you doing about it? Yes, guy waving.
Yeah, sometimes there is reason for I mean, I hear sometimes they say like time and that's it. They just say time and don't finish the sentence.
That sounds dumb. That just sounds like that you just missed some of the call. And if I did hear that, I would probably ask to repeat it.
Yeah, I figured it out. Thanks.
Yeah. So say that again. Yes. Thank you, crazy German.
So do have to.
Okay, Ophelius, I say again, SALTA stands for size, activity of enemy, location, time, activity of friendly. Okay. Why are you saluting under arms? You know that's not okay.
I misclicked something. I'm not sure what button it is.
Key above enter.
Yeah,
Tap
yeah.
that
What?
once more.
Just walk. Just walk, yeah.
Okay. Are there any questions to the Salta? Size, 1 times in my team, 1 times enemy squad, 1 times enemy platoon, 1 times enemy company.
Okay.
Squad plus, stuff like that.
Yeah, so basically just pick a element size that fits what you're facing, and then if there are more or less, then a plus or minus. Squad plus, squad minus. Fighting plus, fighting minus. Company plus, company minus.
Got it. Can you clarify the time component?
The reason we have time is because if you're, for instance, on a recon mission, you might see an enemy, but it might have been 5 minutes ago before you got a chance to report on the net. So then you report time 17:55, for instance. Lets people know that you saw them, but it happened a while ago. Okay. Are there any extra questions to Salsa? Now we have a thing I tried to dumb down because we had in the previous we had a shit ton of different requests for pickup or drop off or resupply or whatever, and I tried to narrow it down to what you actually need to report in any case, and that is initiate traffic, grid of your landing zone or pickup zone or drop zone or whatever, and how you're marking it. If you're marking it, then comes the status of that zone, and that's color coded, which means green is all clear, nothing happening. Yellow, something might be happening. Red, enemy is actively shooting at this zone. Hot, don't come into it, you're gonna die. And then you add an approach direction, like approach from north, approach from south, approach using MSR from the west, for instance. And then get a confirmation that or get someone to acknowledge that this is understood, this message. So an example could be if I needed a helicopter to come pick us up right now, I could say, Thunderbird, this is God Hand, requesting pickup at grid 048 100, marked with blue smoke, break. Status green, approach from the south, break, acknowledge, over. Then he should just say again what I just said, and then that should enter traffic. Any questions on talking to helicopters and shit?
Yes, what if a situation changes immediately, like the second?
Then you just report, situation changed, and zone is now hot.
Yeah, but if, for example, if a helicopter starts taking fire or something like that.
I think
then
they will
he
notice.
should probably know. If he doesn't know, then you call out, abort, 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 contact all LSAT hot. Okay, then he should just fly off.
And should deploy a smoke or something like that.
To tell the helicopter that something's happening, or no, he won't understand what you mean unless you told him, if I pop red smoke, LSAT's hot. Unless you tell him that, he won't know what you mean anyway.
Alright.
So that should be useless. It's much faster to just get on net. Thunderbird, abort, 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 LSAT's hot.
Well, you can also give an abort code before that if you want to.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Again, a thing you can do, but not very rarely applicable in armor. If you really have to, then go ahead. Okay. And are there any final questions to LSATs or pickup zones or drop zones or whatever?
Are we going to go over, for example, does an RTO ever request CAS, or is that solely the
That's a
property of
JTAC.
JTAC?
You usually ask the JTAC to And that's what we're gonna get to right now, actually. What you're gonna tell the JTAG LFO.
Cool.
Okay. So next thing is request for fire support or CAS, and there are a lot of ways to request this, but this is the bare basics of what the FO or JTAG has to know in order to actually support you. So first off is initiate traffic, and then give a target location, and target location involves the grid of the target and the elevation of the target. And in this case, if you're calling something in on the airfield, then it's elevation and or then it's grid and elevation 339, for instance. But if you have to call in on a hill or something, then you have to get out your nav skills and figure out what the fuck the elevation's actually at. Once you've done that, send the target location, that means grid, and the elevation of the target. Then comes a target description. That's basically a small contact report. So it's just saying how many targets are there and how are they. It's basically as also as enemy squad in the open, suppressing me at. And you've already set the grid, and what if they're moving, then you report that as well. So it could be enemy infantry in the open moving east. That lets CAS or artillery know. Okay, that's okay. They're there and they're moving east, and I assume if they're running, they're gonna move this fast. Once you've given a target location and description, then if you know what you're actually looking for, then you give a desired effect. More likely and that depends more on what time they have to engage the target than what you actually want, because the FO and FTC should usually know exactly how they want to engage a target, so based on your target description. But you can ask for, I want them suppressed, or I want them saturated, or I want them to disappear from the face of the earth or whatever, in that desired effect. And then obviously get a confirmation of the grid and elevation and the target description to make sure they know what you actually want them to do. But that's pretty basic. So for instance, if we had contacts to a northwest and I want them suppressed, I could call the JTAG. JTAG, this is guard hand request, close air support. Copy, send grids 045 098, elevation 339er, break. Target description, enemy squad occupying house, break. Request bomb run on it, over. Okay, confirming 045 098 squad, elevation 339er, squad occupying house, request bomb run. And that basically lets the FO JTAG know whatever they have to know in order to accomplish the goal. Then it's their prerogative to ignore that you wanted a bomb run and decide to use a missile or whatever. Okay, are there any questions to these reports and returns? Okay, in that case we're going to be moving into the practical phase now, where hopefully we can assign a 4 to 6 man team to each instructor, and then they will take you out and do or they'll give you call signs, and then they'll take you out on different routes where you will where they will spawn something for you to report in, and then you basically report that to your instructor so he can check if what you're doing makes sense. Any questions to that? I have to run back my TS, so I won't be able right now. So Jake, can you take charge on this? We want to have that happening. We want to assign radio call signs by jobs. So, for instance, what they do for example, the Canadian military, they actually assign letters to a call sign depending on what they're doing. So, for instance, an armored call sign will always start with Alpha for armor. An engineer call sign will always start with Echo for engineer, and infantry with India and so forth. That's not always the way to go, but it's actually possible. but what you will often get is, for instance, a company call sign could be Hitman, if you've seen Generation Kill, you notice, or Assassin, or whatever. Something that lets us know what kind of call sign this is, or War Pig for some sort of armor call sign, or whatever. But that's something that lets us know what kind of unit this is. And then we add numbers to it. So for instance, you have Hitman, and then you have Hitman 1. It could tell us what platoon he is. So we don't care that his name is James, because we know Hitman 1, that's leader of Hitman's first platoon, Hitman Company's first platoon. Then we can give him give even more numbers. We can have Hitman 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, and 1-5. That could be what's called sub-call signs, and that's the individual squads in his platoon. So if any one of the squad leaders have to get up on the company net to talk, they can say this is Hitman 1-1 for Hitman 2. That lets you know that Hitman's first platoon's first squad is trying to talk to second platoon leader, for instance. But the reason we assign these is simply to let people know what we're doing, so we don't have to remember everyone's name or know it for that matter. Next thing comes initiating. Wait, are there any questions to call signs? Okay, so next thing comes is initiating traffic, which a lot of people have a hard time doing. You often hear people doing this in a weird way, and there's a very simple, very standardized way of doing this, and this is just like you pick up your phone, you saw something that was less than 4 times infantry, and that's as accurate as you're getting, and that shouldn't be cause for any further questions. Like if you see a squad plus, you know you're counted at least 9 guys, and there are more. Then it's very simple. You don't have to explain anymore. Super simple stuff, but sometimes if you don't know this stuff, you'll fuck everyone over. Next thing is brevity, and one thing people like to report accurate information. So like if you send a sit rep, you want to report I'm at grid 049er2210035, just because you want to be super accurate. But there is no need for this level of accuracy, because you just need to tell somewhat where you are, and people saying using mills to point out a contact that's 100 meters away, it's 5718 mils away, and it's right, it's true, it's accurate information, but it's useless information. You don't need that level of accuracy. So one thing is you want to be accurate, you want to be brief. So you have to somewhat filter out what's actually relevant, accurate information in some cases, because sometimes you can really overload people with information that they can't use for anything. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. And next thing is obviously clarity. Clarity basically means that you want to make sure that something. Okay. Clarity is you want to make sure that whatever you're saying is a clear message, and one thing you want to do that by is simply by controlling your voice instead of we got contact north 1 squad minus. It's accurate information. It was a brief piece of information, but the way you did your voice just made it unclear what you were trying to say. So you want to try and be clear about whatever you're trying to explain to the other end of the line, simply because he's not there, he can't see what you're saying, then enter familiar course again, because that's super simple stuff. Okay, so welcome to the radio telephone operators course, or basically radio procedure course. What this course is designed to do is to train you in how to use various radios introduced by ICA and how to properly communicate on the radio. This course will allow you to become more effective team leader, squad leader, supplement platoon headquarters, or being an RTO. The skills taught here can be used in mission you participate in, or wherever you have to use communication mediums like this. So what I've done here, we're simply going to assume that you know how to use the radios. So we're going to skip this phase and move right into the basics of communications. Furthermore, we'll be going over something called information filtering. Someone needs to stop hot micing. components of radio message, types of nets and frequencies, some pro words, and some reports and returns. Followed up by a practical. First off, using radios basically is now a huge part of modern warfare, and if you can't use your radios properly as a platoon or a large unit, then you're failing. You're gonna simply be killed by the enemy for them being able to better communicate than you and better exploit the situation than you, because you have to spend more time figuring out what the fuck's going on. You saw that in Iraq 2003, where American units were better at communicating and maneuvering than the Iraqis, thereby defeating them with very few units in a very short period of time. So this is why we want to teach you this, so you can communicate fast and effectively without and thereby save time and effort. So the basic communications comes down to the ABCs of communications, which are accuracy, brevity, and clarity. Fancy English words for you. You have to explain it to him. You have to be clear about these things. And a lot of these things are simply things that comes with practice and from being around people that talk like this. If you're used to talking inaccurately, long sentences, and not much clarity, then you will have a hard time doing this course. But if you're simply used to saying accurate, brief information, then you should be good to go. Are there any questions to the ABCs of communications?
No.
Nice and easy. Okay. So next things are components of a radio message, and a lot of the time talking on a radio gets mystified a lot. Like, people want it to be a hard discipline. A lot of the time you simply see radio calls stopping because one guy on the end of the line isn't sure exactly how to formulate this accurately. So he simply stops talking instead, but it's just because he doesn't know what he's supposed to be saying. And you should never want to get in that situation. You always want to be able to figure out exactly or just something about what you're saying. And if you don't know, then you'd want to simply end the conversation. What's up, Jake? Okay, that way. Yes, so yeah, so first off, you want to be... Well, I was saying something. Anyway, you want to avoid mystifying whatever you're doing, so we're going to try and simple this down. First off, you're going to be assigned a call sign. And a call sign is basically something that you're called on the net. Because we don't want to have people running around saying, "Hey, hey Mongo, this is Godhand. How's it going? Can you get your squad moving over there? Yeah, this is Mongo. That's fine. Hey Jake." Because then we have to remember who the fuck, what the fuck Godhand's doing, what's Mongo doing, what's Jake doing, and they're actually not only applicable to the radio, but whenever you talk to each other and act as soldiers, you want to use accuracy, brevity, and clarity. And the basics of this is accuracy. We'll start off with the first one, A, accuracy. And accuracy is that you only report accurate information. So a lot of the time you would see people reporting they're engaged by an enemy, or they have a shit ton of tanks or whatever coming in towards them, but they don't really know what they're facing, and they don't report accurately that they don't know that what they're facing. You also see instances of people saying, I'm in contact with an enemy platoon, turns out to be 2 enemy riflemen filling out that role. Anything like that. But in general, what you want to do is you want to give out accurate information. You want to make sure that what you're telling someone is actually what you know and not something you just figured out. Because there is actually something called scenario fulfillment, and that's a mental state that your mind enters whenever you're stressed and whenever you're not really sure what's going on, and your mind will actually fill out information. That's how a fucking passenger jumbo got shot down outbound from Iran by an American ship once, simply because the radar operator had this scenario that this must be an F-14 from Iran coming in to bomb his ship, and he just reported that, and turned out it was a completely different scenario. It was first off not a plane diving, but was a plane climbing, and it was going way too slow to be a jet. But nevertheless, that plane got shot down because he didn't report accurately what he saw. That's something you want to be aware of. You want to make sure you actually report the right thing. And this will help to keep your comm simple and accurate, because you won't ever have to explain again what you're seeing. So if you explain something, well, I'm facing a fire team minus, then you won't have to explain how many you're facing or what kind of enemy they are, because you just said a fire team minus.